Have you ever noticed that sometimes when the phone rings, you pause, not because you can't answer it, but because you'd rather not? Or when there's a knock at the door, you stay still, hoping the moment will pass? I'll admit, I've had those moments, and they're not about rudeness. They're about aging, and the way it changes what we need. And with aging comes something very few people prepare you for. A subtle, creeping desire to be left alone, more often. Not because you hate people, not because you've given up, but because your relationship with the world changes. And here's the beautiful twist. That feeling isn't a problem to fix. In many ways, it's healthy. Think back to the rhythm of your younger days. Maybe you were raising kids. Maybe you were climbing a career ladder. Maybe you were part of a busy community where neighbors dropped by unannounced. Phones rang off the hook, and your calendar was crammed with obligations. People were everywhere, at work, at school events, on buses, in church, at the grocery store. Even casual trips to the hardware store could turn into a 20-minute chat with a friend of a friend. Back then, interaction wasn't optional. It was just baked into life. For many of us, that constant buzz became normal, even energizing. But over time, something shifts. It's not that you dislike people, you just don't need them in the same way anymore. And that's not selfish, antisocial, or weird. That's actually psychology. Deep, well-studied, and logical psychology. Before we dive in, if you find comfort in honest conversations like this, hit subscribe. We share stories that don't just pass time, they help make sense of it. Your tolerance for nonsense shrinks. Let's be blunt. When you're young, you put up with a lot. Gossip in the break room, endless small talk, family drama, and friends who drained more than they gave. I remember a man I used to know, full of stories that went nowhere. I'd sit politely for an hour, nodding along, waiting for the chance to get a word in. Back then, I felt I had to. But now, these days, I give myself permission to say, "It was nice seeing you," and walk away. That's not cruelty, that's self-preservation. Decades of navigating noise gives you calluses, and one day, your soul simply says, "Enough." You stop forcing the fake laugh. You stop nodding to opinions that don't deserve your energy. You finally mute the noise. That's not rudeness, that's wisdom. Your priorities change. Somewhere along the way, you start asking different questions. How much energy do I have today? Who actually leaves me feeling good? Who drains me? When you're young, might chase approval, popularity, or the full calendar. By your 60s or 70s, that chase fades. You're no longer after more, you're after meaningful. A good conversation with someone who gets you feels priceless. A silent afternoon with a book feels more nourishing than an overcrowded dinner table. If the right people aren't available, you'd rather sit in peace than fake your way through chatter. That's not loneliness, that's freedom. That's the wisdom of choosing quality over quantity. Grief redefines connection. Here's one that's harder to talk about. Grief. As the years pass, we lose people. Friends move away. Loved ones pass. Long-time relationships fade. And each loss chips away at our social circle. Sometimes people expect us to rebuild, but often we don't. Not because we're depressed, not because we've stopped caring, but because loss changes us. It teaches us how precious time is, and so, instead of filling the empty chairs, we focus on those who remain. I knew a woman named Ruth who lost her closest sister. People urged her to join new groups, to stay busy. But she told me quietly one afternoon, "Sam, I don't need a crowd. I just need a few people I can really trust." That's not giving up. That's choosing depth over distraction. Social fatigue is real. This is a big one, social fatigue. It's not the kind of tiredness a nap fixes. It's the weariness that comes from decades of managing personalities, smoothing conflicts, entertaining guests, and playing host. A single lunch with someone who talks too much can drain your afternoon. A family reunion with 3 overlapping conversations feels like running a mental marathon. When you were 25, you bounced back. At 70, you're still tired the next day, so you start saying no. You choose rest over obligation. You protect your peace like the treasure it is, because it is. Self-awareness deepens. With age comes self-knowledge, real self-knowledge. You know what stirs your soul, what wounds your spirit, and what crosses your limits. If small talk drains you, you skip it. If certain people stir up old pains, you create distance, not to punish them, but to preserve yourself. It's not a wall, it's a boundary. That kind of clarity doesn't come when you're 20. It comes after decades of trial, error, and living. And when it arrives, you stop betraying yourself. You become fiercely loyal to your own peace. Time feels different. Here's one that hits hard. When you're 20, an hour feels like nothing. When you're 70, an hour feels like gold. You don't want to waste it anymore. Every coffee date, every phone call, every visit has a cost. Not just of time, but of energy. And so you invest that time like it's a precious currency. Sometimes that means choosing solitude, not because you dislike people, but because you finally value yourself enough to be selective. Now, here's the tricky part. People around you may not understand. They'll say, "You've changed. You're not as social as you used to be." And the truth, they're right. You have changed. But that's the whole point. You didn't come this far to keep everyone else comfortable. You're not here to be the life of the party. You're here to live your life on your terms, to feel what you feel, to say no without guilt, to say yes only when it matters. That's not rude. That's real. Another gift of age is clarity. You see through things faster. The false charm, the one-sided friendship. You don't need months to figure it out anymore. Sometimes one conversation is all it takes, and that can be exhausting if you're still trying to play the social game. So you step back, you simplify. You no longer justify leaving early or declining invitations. You don't owe anyone your presence just because you used to. From the outside, it might look like isolation, but from the inside, it feels like relief. Many of us were the glue for years, the one who reached out, who kept connections alive. But eventually you ask yourself, who's doing that for me? And if the answer is no one, you stop betraying your own needs. You stop carrying everyone else at the expense of your own health. When you stop people-pleasing, some folks drift away. But the ones who stay, the ones who love you without conditions, they become gold. We can't leave the body out of this. Physical aging changes social choices. Joints ache. Hearing isn't what it used to be. A 2-hour dinner with 5 people talking over each other feels like endurance training. So we adjust. We choose afternoons instead of late nights, quiet cafes instead of crowded restaurants. smaller gatherings instead of banquets. We build lives that fit our bodies instead of forcing our bodies to fit other people's plans. There's also identity. You're no longer the parent of small children. You're no longer climbing the corporate ladder. Your role has shifted, and so have your circles. The people you once shared life with, co-workers, fellow parents, may not feel as connected anymore. That's not failure. That's just change. And letting go of those circles creates space for what you actually need now. A handful of trusted voices, the quiet mornings, the long walks without having to perform for anyone. So when people say, "You used to be so social," you can smile and know they're right. You're not the same. You've peeled away what no longer serves you. And here's the irony. When you stop forcing connection, the right connections find you. The friendships that remain become more precious than gold because they love the quiet, real version of you. So if you've found yourself quieter lately, more selective, maybe even less social, don't panic. Don't second-guess yourself. You're not fading away. You're blooming into who you were always meant to be. Maybe your phone hasn't rung in a while. Maybe your calendar is blank this weekend. Maybe you spent an afternoon staring out the window with a peaceful heart. That's not loneliness. That's arrival. That's what it feels like when your life finally fits. And now I want to turn it over to you. Have you felt this shift in your own life? Do you notice yourself craving quiet, craving peace more than company? Does it feel like loneliness to you? Or does it feel like freedom? Share your story in the comments below. Tell us how you've navigated this change, because your words might be the encouragement someone else needs today. Thank you for spending this moment with me. If this message felt like it understood you better than most people do lately, then don't let this be the last time we talk. Subscribe and come back. I'll be here in this quiet little corner for conversations that actually matter.